What is up, everyone? I am Joe DeHoyos. I'm host of Beyond the Woodline. Um, Man, tonight I got a great guest. We've been talking before we came on the air. He's got so much to cover. I hope we can do it within an hour because he's got a lot to go over. Uh, but I'm not gonna skip over anything. Whatever we talk about, we're gonna stay on that subject, and we'll just kind of let it go from there. So real quick, Mr. Drew Bankey, how are you doing, buddy?
Great, man.
Yeah, man.
Beautiful
Hey,
day.
thanks for sure. Like I said, man, I looked at all your stuff and I was going through your stuff even today, and I was just like, man, I don't even know where to begin with you. You know, You know? And I
uh,
did take notes, but it was just like it was just ridiculous. The amount of notes I was taking. So yeah, man. If you don't mind, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and and what you're doing.
yeah, I lived 44 years old, just turned 44 on the 11th. And yeah, just I'm a disabled veteran for one. I did two tours in Iraq. I'm a father to four children. My oldest is 20 years old. I got 18-year-old. I got a 2 year old, and I got one that's about to be one. I'm author of two books and co-founder of Sacred Journeys Within Plant Medicine Church here in Southern Colorado. We work with ayahuasca, San Pedro, um, other indigenous medicines and ceremonies. Some ceremonies that don't involve any plant medicine either. We also do C5s and star watches and things like that out here. Um, but yeah, I've been public speaking since 2019. In 2018, I had a series of multiple different occurrences of things happening in 2018 and 2019. I started public speaking and been on the circuit for a while, telling my story, and yeah, excited to. I think right now, I guess my best thing you could call me is maybe a mirror for humanity to show people what to open questions inside themselves of what they could do or the boundaries that they can push inside their own consciousness and being. And I think that's my purpose here now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is great. I know you're doing good things and you're helping a lot of people out. Uh, but I think helping yourself out first was is what really kind of led you to helping other people. Would you say that?
Yeah, for sure. So I did two tours to go a little more in depth in my story. In 2005, I was in Baghdad. In 2007, I went to Ramadi, which is Western Iraq. So that was my second deployment to Iraq when I was in the Army. I got out in 2009. Went through when I was in Iraq. My second deployment, I went through a divorce. Um, come back to just to the stresses of divorce and all that stuff, and basically went through a depression from 2009 to 2014, and had another suicide attempt in 2014, which I let it, which wound me up in the hospital. Woke up in the ER after being incoherent and basically, asleep for over 24 hours. And that started the process of me finding out what I had was not only depression, but it was deeply tied to PTSD. And got diagnosed with PTSD from the VA, started going through the VA process for the next 2+ years until 2016, and really nothing that was I was going through in the VA was helping at the moment. And um, at that time, ayahuasca come up in a conversation with another a buddy of mine that was a veteran that had went down to Peru, done ayahuasca, and it really changed his life. And um, he was talking about it so much. I started doing research on my own, and over the next 2 months, I just started reading every article I could find, reading small books, anything I could find on it, and a lot of it what was coming back and telling me was ayahuasca was helping veterans in a very profound way, especially with PTSD. And started looking at places to go. I could only find places in South America. My wife was searching at the same time, and she ended up finding a place in Florida. And yeah, she just come to me one day and said that she'd booked us for this retreat and everything, and we'd be going in like 5 weeks. Was our weekend to go for 2 ceremonies with ayahuasca. And we had to start on a diet and everything, and start eating different. And uh, I was on a bunch of different medications from the VA. I had to wean myself off of those, and um, which was a chore, and anyone doing that, listening to this, please, um, seek out professional help. Like if you need to start weaning off to go, certain medications don't mix with ayahuasca, so you have to get off them. But if you're listening to this and thinking about doing it, please, do it in a safe manner. Some of these SSRIs and things like that, getting off of them is just as dangerous. Is very dangerous, especially for your mental well being. Anyways, that's a disclaimer I got to put on this part of it. But yeah, I went and did my first ceremony, and me and my wife together, we drank the medicine together. The first night, neither one of us had a great experience. It was just a bunch of purging. Didn't see anything and wanted to leave. I woke my wife up in the morning, and everyone else was asleep. I was like, "Babe, let's get out of here." And she's like, "Oh, we got another ceremony tonight." I'm like, "No, last night was horrible. I didn't see anything. There was no pretty colors, not nothing." And just horrible pain and agony, and just in the bathroom a lot. And she's like, "No." Long story short, we ended up staying and drank that first cup that second night, and 20 minutes into it, I was overtaken by a white light, which I was mistaken for a car at first. And then next thing I thought I was on a train tracks, about to get ran over by a train. And then I got overtaken by this light, and I realized it was the light that everyone was talking about. It was that everyone always talks about. It's a real light. It's the light of like the universe, that when you exceed this vibrational space, this 3D space, you get overtaken by this white light. Went down a tunnel, and spoke to the spirit of ayahuasca. And uh, she explained to me that we were gonna. I was in great gratitude. I was like crying, even in the spirit world. I was crying to the spirit and telling her how much gratitude I was for this experience and all that. She said, "Don't worry, that we're going to be in a relationship from here for the rest of my life. She's never going to leave me. She's never left me. She's always been with me. And now that I know she's there, we're going to have this relationship." I had no idea what she was talking about. She told me to come back as soon whenever I was ready, and she would tell me more. So I went back the next weekend, my third ceremony. I went in with the intention of finding out why I was here and what I was here to do and everything. And I was shown that I would be speaking to a lot of people and changing them from the inside out, and for the better and everything. And speaking on a grand scale, and that's what I've been doing since 2019. And here I am. And we ended up founding our medicine church in 2020, filing with the state. We were doing ceremonies underground before that. We have lawyers that help us out. We have an advisory board that has actually a pharmacist on our advisory board for Sacred Journeys Within, that helps with drug interactions. And we
Okay.
def- one of our overall missions here at Sacred Journeys Within, we're trying to bridge the gap in between Western medicine and these old indigenous ways that need to be bridged in a more healthy way than what they have been, over the past 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And yeah, been speaking at a lot of conferences, and um, still doing ceremonies, but more moving into teaching people energy work and their own energy and things like that, talking about the chakra system, meridian points, and energy coming off of our bodies and things like that, that we actually can use for telekinesis, telepathy, capabilities, and things like that.
So real quick, not to change the subject or anything, but do you see more of an acceptance in this type of medicine than in previous years?
Yeah, definitely it's growing. Ayahuasca is a lot more well known. It's a lot more well known now than what it was in 2016.
Mm.
It was, and even going back, you know, 10 years before, people were still doing ayahuasca, but it was not a whole lot of people knew about. Timothy Leary, Ram Dass, things like that, doing the LSD overdoses and things like that. These are all, ultimately a lot of people like the baby boomers and things like that look at this as unhealthy behavior, but really it's expansion of consciousness, expansion of your mind, expansion of yourself, and open yourself into the infinite world that's there all the time, that's been there and always been there and always will be there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I think when I first heard about it, maybe I don't know, at least 15 years ago, I thought it was like some myth or some kind of made up thing, and then
Yeah.
but as I get older and start to realize that this is a real thing, and you see different, uh, not just people, uh, that I know that have told me about it, but then you start seeing like celebrities talk about it and stuff like that. So yeah, I was like I said, about 3 years ago, people started talking to me about uh, seriously looking into it and maybe trying it for myself, and so it's something that I would like to do and experience, and
Yeah.
I think it would be good for me. I'm in a much better place mentally than I was, a few years ago, but I would still like to go out and experience it, and just to see what happens, see what I can find out about myself, I guess.
It always happens at the right time. There is no other truth other than that, like, and that's uh my first book really is based around that statement right there, like the divinity of nature, the divinity of creation, that everything is actually perfect. Our perception is the only thing that is wavering on that truth.
Yeah,
Every we actually That's why people ask about heaven, or like, what about heaven or hell? Like, well, we are actually living in what most would consider heaven. Like, we we can shift our perception and we can be in that moment. How many times, and I explain this like in a way, like, how many times have you gotten in an argument over a text or even a conversation, and come to find out, it's a couple days before you see this person and they're like, hey man, what was that text about? Like, when you start talking about it and you realize that you're totally misconceived of what the vibe was and what was being conveyed. You overreacted and made constructed a stressful moment out of really nothing.
right.
And how many times have we done that, and we don't know about it? And to what extent? Like, we've when people talk about programming and guiding from the powers to be, there we have manifestation energy running through us at all times, and the powers to be, the powers that run this planet, have been farming that manifestation energy in a very cloaked way, that cloaked in patriotism, cloaked in so many different, cloaked in religion, so many different things. They've been farming our manifestation energy for probably over 100 years,
Yeah.
if not more.
Yeah, you're right about the text. I just remember arguing I got into with my girlfriend about that. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
we can
Yeah,
we construct it, and uh, it's crazy because we're doing it because we're externalizing things that are inside of ourselves when we do that. Like, when we manifest an argument or a stressful moment out of nothing. I've done it a million times.
yeah,
And um, I had when it hit me that I was externalizing something that was inside of me and trying to put it in front of myself so I could deal with it and process it. That's not how that was meant to be processed. It was meant to be processed internally in a much more controlled environment than this environment out here. This is the Wild West when we have our eyes open and we're in the physical.
yeah.
But inside we can deal with things in a much more efficient manner,
Mhm.
um, much more controlled manner, and much more effective.
Yeah. So getting back to the ayahuasca, what kind of benefits do you does it have? And let's talk about yourself or like you've seen on for other people.
Well, it definitely shows you that there's more to life than what there is in the physical, and a lot of people need that are stuck in this 3D paradigm that have not broken out of that yet. And ayahuasca will help you break out of that. And you know, just as well as I do that once you break out of it, you can't. There's no going back into it. You can't go back to the old way of understanding of how things work. That's probably the greatest thing. It gives you. Um, there's my donkey. It gives ayahuasca gives you a, I don't know what would you call it, a profound spiritual or religious experience. And I've come to find out, like, the first couple times that ayahuasca comes to you, if you have a spiritual background, say if you deep into Buddhist meditation or Christianity, depending on what your foundation of spiritual or religious knowledge is, the experience will be based around that. So instead of like seeing ayahuasca, you have Buddha talking to you, or Jesus talking to you, or a avatar that looks like that. So you can understand that this is a profound like spiritual experience. Like, I didn't really have that going into ayahuasca. What I had was, I knew there was a higher power. I didn't know what it was. I didn't really care at all, and that wasn't my thing. I wasn't I wasn't the spiritual person I am now at all. But going into it, it was ayahuasca that spoke to me, and the spirit of cannabis, and having those spirits talk to me, like, I don't know, just in a way that really showed me that they were real. And maybe in a realm and a frequency that I can't understand, but they are very real. Another thing it'll do past that, it will help you process your traumas in a way that you can process them, and they won't be clouded by the emotional baggage that um, overshadowed the event. So you get any type of trauma that you've had as a kid, like almost all of us has had some type of trauma as a kid. And lots of times there's so much emotion involved in it that that trauma is covered up, and really the lesson in that trauma is covered up, because really what we're going through is lessons in life. Everything, every single moment, every single breath, every single interaction is a lesson, and even the traumas are no different.
Yeah.
But when they're clouded with the emotion, we can't really process them. So ayahuasca lets you, people talk about reliving traumas. Yes, you're reliving a trauma, but you're reliving it from a higher place, where you're lots of times you're really not going through the pain and the deep emotion like that was triggering that. You might still go through the emotional part of it, and just enough for you to still understand the process, but you're not going to be first person in that body going through that process and feeling all the pain, this, that, and the other. So, lots of times people come to me and they go through ceremonies and they will process a near death experience or things like that, which it was very hard to understand at the time, because there was actual physical pain or whatever involved in it. But when they go through it in the ceremony, they can really absorb the reason why that happened.
Yeah. So when someone goes through like the ceremony, is it relatively a peaceful thing, or can they relive trauma?
Both,
Okay.
what I tend to do, my container that I hold for ceremonies with ayahuasca, and with other ceremonies, ayahuasca, we're not really doing a whole bunch of ayahuasca ceremonies as of late. We're more working with bufo various, the 5-MeO DMT, which is more quick onset, and Sorry, what was the question again?
If when people go through the ceremony, is it a peaceful thing, or can people actually relive like trauma again?
Um, Lots of times they do, but my prayer for my container that I hold for all my ceremonies is I'm trying to hold the most comfortable environment and container possible. So people don't really tend to do a whole lot of purging in my ceremonies, things like that. It's more of um, having their profound experience, and it's most of the time it's very compassionate. I've when there is trouble in the ceremony, or when they people do have a hard time, it's more something that they have to go through that they just haven't went through yet, and just now's the time to do it,
Right.
and that's when people usually purge, uh, throw up into a bucket, or go into the bathroom, or sweat, cry, shake. There's a lot of different ways that people purge, and sometimes there's a lot of different. They do multiple things at the same time. Some people are crying and laughing at the same time. A lot. Turning into animals. I've seen a lot, and it's just Native American ways. People talk about having totems and things like that. That a totem is basically having like spirit animals involved in your makeup of your body, and uh, some tribes say we have like seven animal spirits that make up our human body, and different aspects of those animals are mixed, and then they mix into a human. So you have people turn into lions, roaring like a lion, getting up on all fours like a lion, walking like a spider. A snake is people turn into a snake a lot in the ayahuasca ceremonies, and the bufo various ceremonies are a little different. They're very quick. About 20 minutes is the experience part of it. The whole ceremony lasts a little bit over an hour, but it's usually done outside, and uh, deep connection with the sun. So I like to do it in the morning times or in the evening times when the sun's setting, so people can do the ceremony and then set up and look at the sun while it's setting, and actually look at the sun. And it's just there's a lot of that's our source, that's our God, and in this lifetime and in the present that we can see, a lot of people are praying to things in the Bible or things in different books, spiritual books that are they just talk about and have to visualize them, but really that's all of our life is coming from that sun. Like the whether it be a plant or animal, it's energy that's come from that sun that we're ingesting and eating. And when we're these ceremonies tend to open us up and remind us that we can take in energy in different ways from that sun other than just eating it, and we can start to feel energy coming into our cells through our skin and things like that, through our eyes, through our crown chakra, and opening up our crown chakra. All these ceremonies, even psilocybin, things like that, will help open up your third eye, your your sixth sense, if you will.
Just real quick, I want to say hi to Miss Sandra. She was out of commission for a little bit. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're doing better. I hope you're
Hey,
taking care of
Sandra.
yourself. Yeah, I hope you're taking care of yourself, Sandra. Yeah, but yeah. So you talked about the different animals, right? Do people ever experience other entities not of this planet?
For sure.
Yeah. Is
For
there any
sure.
common ones?
Um, Grays. I've experienced grays in ceremonies, and other people have experienced grays. People have experienced a lot of things in Egypt, especially in ceremonies with me. They've experienced seeing Osiris, seeing themselves as different archetypes in ancient Egypt, and yeah, I think it's just the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
Um, one ceremony I was in was with Yopo, which is a 5-MeO DMT. I was helping a teacher of mine hold a ceremony in Crestone, Colorado, just up the valley from here, uh, years ago, and I had never experienced Yopo full on in a full on ceremony like this before, but um, it was blown into my nose. It was like a snuff that a ground up snuff of a bean, a Yopo bean, and it's blown up into your nose. It's basically powderized and then blown into your nose, and you vibrate from base status here to rocket status, it just in a breath. And it was just so overpowering. My ears were ringing. I was still in the room, like still full on, like in the space that we were in. I didn't leave. And as I looked into the corner of the room, I saw this light like start to shine, like someone had a flashlight and they were like putting it up underneath the edge of the baseboard or whatever on the side of the wall.
Mhm.
And it just started opening up. And as I like, you know, focused in on it, it started to open up, and I saw this like doorway open up. As soon as I got to like 4 feet, 4 or 5 feet, this first gray like ducked down. He was like 9, 10 feet tall. He ducked down and like come into the room, and I was like sitting on the other end of the room, and I was like, wow. And then another one like opened up more, and another one come through, and then it opened up fully, and then another one come through, and they just come in, and one of them come over and grabbed my hand and walked me around, and uh, was showing me how to telepathically, like I was like working on people's like fixing people's organs, like people that didn't even know they were sick.
Mhm.
I was seeing inside them, and they were showing me how to work on them, and like how simple it was to like fix them. And they was walking me around. They was After it was done, like everyone was fixed, and they was walking me around to sit down, and my wife was beside me, and um, she was having like stomach pains for weeks leading up to this. And I asked them, I was like, why can't you let me fix her? And they're like, you can fix her. And by that time I was like sobbing, I was crying. And they reached down and grabbed my hand, and they wiped it under my eye, my tear. And they took my hand, and they rubbed my hand with that tear on my wife's stomach. And then my wife was fine. And um, fast forward like 2 years, my wife ended up getting pregnant. She wasn't ever supposed to be able to have children again. So
Mhm.
my last two children, um, you know, a lot of people won't believe me, but I was there, and I saw what I was doing. I was fixing her insides. That was um, from a long time ago, and for different reasons for in the future that I didn't even know at the time. I didn't see the kids coming at that time, but I did know that I was fixing that at that time. And yeah, that's one occurrence that I can talk about, that I can talk on.
Yeah,
But
that's a pretty amazing occurrence. How you could top that one? That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
yeah, they basically the overall lesson was our emotions and everything are very powerful medicines. And
Yeah.
it wasn't so much just the tears, but it was that emotion and that deep love.
Mhm.
That was medicine in itself. And that was the overall like message of what was being said in that moment. And
Mhm.
that's, as I go down this road more and more, it becomes more and more clear, like our our heart space in every moment, like every single moment, every single interaction, every single word. Our heart space is very important. Like what I showed you before we started the podcast about the energy with the pendulum and everything. That's very real in every moment. And it's always there.
Mhm.
That whether when we get mad at something or we give something gratitude, we're giving it spiritual energy. When we give something gratitude or love, we're giving it spiritual energy. Like love is what the spirits tell me one time. Love is the currency of creation. That's what the spirits told me. Love is the currency of creation. That's what we buy and sell with.
Hmm. I just had deja vu right now. That's weird. Just had deja vu right now. That's pretty weird. But yeah, man, that's pretty cool. I wanted to ask you when you go through this, how real is it? Is it like just as real as anything around you, or
It's just as real as this moment right now, if not more real. It's just there's no question in it.
right?
And that's why this ascension process that we're in, this evolutionary shift, we have to have experiences. I can write. I've wrote 2 books. I speak. I've probably done over 100 podcasts, and you can listen to me all day long. You can listen to all of the top, you know, sages that's ever spoken. You could read all the books, but it's not ever really going to make sense until you have your own experience.
Hmm.
And I hope and pray everyone that's listening, everyone that will listen, and everyone that's not listening all has their own experience, because that's when it's real. That's when the paradigm shift happens. That's when your cellular makeup changes. You can almost feel it when you have an experience or when you hear truth. Like, that's why when people listen to my talks and things like that, I tell people, like, look, you have a bullshit meter inside you. You Something that I've said here has raised a hair on the back of your neck. Some of the stuff that I've said or gonna say, will you're not gonna be able to digest right now. It may not be true for you, but it's all like me. You have your own, lie detector, your own bullshit meter. And my words and vibrations, I've been shown from the spirits, like, that I don't have to worry about who I'm speaking to or what I'm speaking about. I speak my truth. I let this light, I try to articulate the light that I saw, the light that's part of me. I try to articulate that in words that can be digested by humans, so they can in turn have their trigger their own experience. And that's all I do. And but yeah, it's just having the experiences. And at first, there's questions whether they're hallucinations, and eventually, the hallucinations becomes a vision. And when the hallucination becomes a vision, it the visions are life changing. Hallucinations people can write off, but once you have a vision, then realize that everything that you've seen, whether it be in dream space or a hallucination in a psychedelic ceremony, it's all real. It's all really a part of you. I would When you're talking about having dreams about uh, ETs and things like that earlier,
Hmm.
this I believe that it was you. And you're bilocated. Your consciousness is not just in one person. It's not just in Joe right now. It's bigger than that. Your consciousness alone. I'm not talking about the universal conscious. I'm talking about just yours.
Yeah.
And the more we have these conversations, the more vibrational spaces that it occupies. So I think that's why the more our consciousness opens up, we start have more dreams. We start to see ourselves. We actually start to see ourselves in more places, because our consciousness is expanding and able to take on more and more vibrational spaces.
Mhm. Yeah, well, you talk about dreams too. Like my dreams, like previous to 2019, I wrote so many of them off, and I still do. I don't think they meant anything. But after I started this path that I'm on now, this journey, right, a lot more of my dreams are a lot more vivid. They're a lot more realistic, Uh, so yeah, I think there's something to that, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah. I know. I mean, I know there is. I've had it was back in 2018. I was going through a lot of spontaneous channeling, waking up from dreams, things like that. And then I ended up having this dream where um, I was walking down a dirt road and I found an eagle. and I picked up the eagle. It was dead, and I was walking, sobbing in this dream, and down this dirt road. And at the end of the dirt road, just long dirt road, at the end of it, the sun was setting right at the end of it. And that was no, that was in 2017. That was November 2017. So fast forward April of 2018, I was, and after that dream, it was very vivid. It was one of like the most, it was a different dream than I've ever had before, you know, and I knew there was something to it. Talked to my wife about it, talked to a couple other people. Fast forward to April 2018, like 5 months later, doing an ayahuasca ceremony. At the end of the ayahuasca ceremony, I was like deep in it. Like a lot of things happened. It's a long story. We don't have time to get into any of that now, but it was a deep ceremony. At the end of it, um, I was kind of going back into my body, and all of a sudden, I seen this hand come out of the darkness. Like I was in this darkness space in between the spirit world and my body. I was about to come back into my body. I could feel start feeling my body again, but I wasn't able to see anything. All of a sudden, I see this hand come out of the darkness and like pull me back in this spirit world. And it's ayahuasca, and she's like holding me, and we're just like floating in the spirit world, and she's like, "You remember that dream you had a few months ago?" I was like, "The eagle dream?" She like knew exactly, like I knew exactly what she was talking about. She's like, "Exactly." She like showed me this. She like opened up the sky, and like in the darkness, like this huge like screen opened up, and it was me going through that, seeing that same scene again, you know. And um, she's like, "Pay attention. This is about to manifest in your physical life." And I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Because you've been threatening to stop this whole process." Because I was threatening to quit. I went outside one night, and I'm like, "I'm about to go fucking crazy. Either you're gonna tell me that this is real, or I'm about to put myself in a hospital. I'm a disabled veteran. This could be PTSD for all I know.
Yeah.
You know, voices in my head and all this." So I was going through this internal like battle with it, whether back and forth, whether it was spirit, whether it was me going crazy, this, that. Like I was I'm a very realist person, you know, and don't want to like go down the wrong path or something. And she's like, "This is the answer to your prayers." She's like, "You screamed out for it. This is your answer." She's like, "You're never going to be able to deny this happens." And I'm like, "You're telling me that I'm going to find this scene's going to happen in the physical?" She's like, "Yeah, before your birthday." My birthday's April 11th. So, you know, just a few days ago. So we just passed the anniversary of all this happening. So days are going on, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. It's getting closer to my birthday, and they she said it's going to be before my birthday. And we were living up in Crestone, and I was on Facebook, and I seen someone post. They're like, "There's a a vulture that's been hit on the corner of such and such dirt road, and it's like 2 or 3 miles outside of Crestone." And as I'm reading it, like my hair stands up, my ears start ringing, like uncontrollable ringing. And that was like one of the first times that, you know, this spirit language started happening to me with the ringing in the ears and all that. And I told my wife, I was like, "We need to get in the car. We need to go check this out." I said, "I don't think this is a vulture." And she's like, "What do you think it is?" And she's like, "You think it's the eagle?" And I was like, I I believe it's worth driving out there.
Mm.
And she's like, "When you want to leave?" I was like, "Right now." I was like walking out the door. And she come running and jumped. This is before my two babies came, you know. And she come running, jumped in the car where I'm driving out there. And there's a car in front of me. I'm going down this dirt. You know, I start going out to this spot, and I'm get on a dirt road, and there's a car in front of me. I'm thinking in my mind, like, "Oh my God, it's like someone else." Because Crestone's like a very spiritual town. It's here.
Mm.
They got like 28 different retreat centers there. They got Buddhist retreat centers, POD church, all types of stuff there. So there's a lot of people that have my same mentality there.
Yeah.
And in my mind, the person in front of me is going out there at the same spot. We get going out there, and they turn and go a different way. And it's just me and my wife, like in the car, and we're driving, and we get to this intersection, and we drive down the road and we don't see anything. And my wife, as we're driving, I'm like, babe, I was like, there's got to be eagle out here, because if not, I'm on the verge of putting myself in a mental hospital, because like the voices in my head won't stop. And there's got to be eagle out here. It's got to be. And we get, and as I'm saying, like babbling all this stuff, she's like, I wonder, that's a weird statue in that front yard. I'm like, wait, what'd you say? And she's like, we passed that yard, and by that mailbox is like a long driveway, and back, like a half-mile driveway, and back that driveway is the farmhouse, and at the end of it's like a mailbox. She's like, it's a weird statue. It's like this bird with a wing up in the air. And I was like, hold on. I turn around and drive back there, and it wasn't doing it when I come back, but it was an eagle that was dying. And when we passed it, it had held its wing in the air as we drove past, and that's what my wife saw, and she thought it was a statue. And yeah, the eagle, and was taking its last breaths, and I picked it up, and I walked over and stood in the road, and I looked down the road, and the sun was setting at the end of the road. And I swear to God, dude, like it felt like an earthquake started happening in that moment. And but not just on the ground, like the sky. Like the every every particle that made up the creation was vibrating, and I started to see like every single particle like a pixel on a camera or something like that. Like the whole creation started like a matrix type of deal. And I was just standing there with this eagle looking down at it, and a big female golden eagle. And it was just a really profound moment, and that was the eagle started talking to me in that moment. She said, now's your chance, put me down, and no harm, no foul, but if you take me with you, your life's never going to be the same. This is your choice point of your, like, but your life will never be the same after this. And when that eagle passed, I felt its spirit go um, into my eye, like leave its eye and then go into my eye. And yeah, there's tons of stories that go along with that. But
Yeah, that sounds a pretty cool, pretty profound moment there. Uh, and I like it, I like that. But let me ask you something, and I totally 100% believe you, but for like people who like don't believe you, I mean, what do you say to that? You know?
I don't say anything to it. It's just I don't. I've got way past the point of judgment. Because I know what it sounds like, man. Like
Yeah.
I know I know what all this stuff sounds like, but I lived it.
Yeah.
And it's happened to me, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen to me for anyone else. Like I
Right.
don't share that story a whole lot, just because
Oh man, I got goosebumps when you were telling me. Yeah.
it's just a lot to take in. I had a face to face encounter
Mhm.
with ET in 2018 near Chaco Canyon, and had a dream a couple, like 2 weeks after that experience, where I went through the same experience but from the ET's point of view. That's how I learned that we were bilocated. All of us are bilocated, and we just don't really realize it. If we're having an experience, there's a very good chance that that is a future you, or from a different vibration you. That's your soul essence, that's your spirit, that's in a different avatar. Like if you're seeing a ship, if you're having a face to face. And that's kind of the big shocker of all this. We're experiencing ourselves in every single moment. Even right now,
Yeah.
I'm looking at another part of myself right now. Everyone that's listening to this, I'm talking to another part of myself, and vice versa. There is no separation. All this separation is is part of the illusion. We're all sharing the same consciousness, and that is in by no means a cliche thing that's being said. That's very factual, very, very more factual than you what most people can even wrap their head around. That we're all sharing the same consciousness.
Well, my mom says, "Wow." Mom.
Thank you.
And then Sandra says, "Awesome experience. Who are we to judge?" And that's true, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard people have some crazy things happening, and um, I'm a part time host on another show, the UFO Man Nation. If you haven't heard about that, go over and check them out. UFO Man podcast, and there's this is a crazy world we're living in right now. It's becoming more and more crazy. A lot of conspiracies that were just 5 years ago, 10 years ago, UFOs and things like that. Now the government's starting to let us know that this has been a reality for, since the 30s, 40s, or even before.
Before, yeah.
And they've known about it. And, you know, there's a, I hold a lot of, that's the only really judgment I hold is not really the government, it's supposed the powers to be. All this, all these secrets that they've had for so long about consciousness, about UFOs, all these things that could have really helped people, like
Right.
consciousness and energy healing can heal cancer and things like uh, you know things like that. There's all types of other things that can heal, and this has been a reality for that the powers to be have known about for a very long time. How many people have died at them holding a secret of just UFOs in general? Like, think how many people has committed suicide because they've had experience, they didn't want to share it, they've been ridiculed into the point of committing suicide, or something like that happening. How many people has that happened to just for the UFO thing? We're not talking about consciousness and energy healing and all these other things, all
Right.
these diseases that are engineered to um, just to take down the population. I guess it's part of the plan anyways, like the overall plan. But yeah, I'm here to wake people up into what's real. Like, go to Amazon, check out my books, like, and if you can't afford the books, go to type in my name in YouTube if you like this interview, and you can listen to a billion more that's free for the taking. And my books ain't all the way free. I gotta pay for the paper, but
Mhm.
I try to keep the cost as low as possible, just because I want that information to get out there.
Well, I kind of wanted to touch on what you said too. Some people that have had these experiences and have taken their lives or whatever. But what's even worse sometimes are people who live their life thinking that they're crazy because they were told they were crazy, right? And they live like this for decades, right? Thinking that they're crazy, thinking that there's something wrong with them, and there's nothing wrong with them at all. You know,
Yeah. No,
that's
they're just turning on to another stage of humanity.
yeah.
And people there's so many people that can read these ancient texts of Bible, um, all of them, all these ancient texts, all these prophecies and things like that, and they can sit there and let their mind wonder while they're reading these books of what it would be like to live in a prophetic time, a biblical time. There's a donkey going again. A deeper religious time, and what it would look, and just wondering what it would look like. Well, this is what it looks like. This is what it would look like to live in a prophetic time. We are in a prophetic time. There's over 28 different indigenous prophecies, multiple spiritual books and texts, and spiritual practices, religions that all describe a time when something's going to change, whether that be described as an apocalypse or a new start, new earth, age of Aquarius, rainbow age, crystal age, whatever. There's a million different ways to describe it. But we are actually in that age. We're in all those ages right now. All of them are true. Just 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 like we have different religions, I mean different languages across the world. religions are no different than different languages for spiritual practice, like, or spirit, like, and there's only one spirit, there's only one consciousness that we're all sharing. That's why the quantum field can be tapped into. That's why bilocating and Operation Stargate, all these government programs that's been based around consciousness, bilocation, remote viewing, things like that, are all real, and all the whistleblowers are starting to come out and share their experiences.
Right.
Recently, Joe Monagle was on the Sean Ryan show about a month and a half, 2 months ago. He's the very first remote viewer for the agency or the powers to be, whatever you want to call it. It's not even, they don't even have a name. It's not even the CIA. It's past that.
Right.
But he was talking about, he teaches currently, he's a man still alive, and he teaches remote viewing at the Monroe Institute. But he talks about how he was at the Monroe Institute a few years ago, and a couple people from the CIA come in with a manila envelope, and it was blank, and they handed it to him, and they asked him to remote view that case. He put his hand on it and went and did his thing. After a while, didn't open up the envelope or anything, and after a couple hours come back and told the guys what he saw. And he described an alien planet, a planet not of Earth. He was there, and there was pyramids, and he went inside these pyramids, and there was human-like beings that were taller than us, maybe 8-9 feet tall on average. But there was hundreds of them, and they were all laying in stasis. They were laying in beds in stasis, like in a sleep state.
Mhm.
And he talked about a crater. He talks about all these things. And they're like, great. And they hand him the manila envelope and walk out. And he opens the manila envelope, and all that's on the inside of it is Mars, 1 million BC.
Oh, yeah. I think I heard that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not just on this earth. It's not just spirits. It's ETs. It's everything that you could think of. It's Bigfoot. It's everything that's ever been talked about. Anything that's ever been talked about in a way that it has a form, that's what creates the form. Our we manifest not only like our life and good and bad things and karma and things like that, but we also manifest everything that we ever think about. So we have to be very, 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 very careful what we're thinking about, and especially going down this path and going down this evolutionary shift and opening up to new things. The more our consciousness expands, the more we're manifesting. So the more we have to be careful of what we're thinking about and where our minds are.
Yep. I totally agree with you, man. We're coming up at the end of the show, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about, everything you've got going on, where they can find you, if they, what you can help them with, your channels, your social media, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. Sacredjourneyswithin.com is, and journeys is spelled how it's spelled down here with the IES. Sacredjourneyswithin.com. You can get in contact with me there. You can send an email through there. Any questions? If you want to come to any ceremonies, if you want to plan a CE5 or anything with a group, we're open to that. Right now, we're mostly doing private ceremonies, small ceremonies, 1, 2, 3 people at a time. But yeah, we're definitely open to booking anything else. We're booked into June right now. We do have openings in May and June, but we are booked out into June already is where we're booking. So um, yeah, check out my books. They're on Amazon. I think they're sold out on my website. You can also access them through my website when they're not sold out, but you can get them through Amazon right now. I'm Perfect and So Are You is the name of the first one, and Find Your Inner Guru is the name of the second one. Both on Amazon. The first one you can get on Kindle for 99 cents. I made it dirt cheap. That way, the cheapest I can make it. And yeah, just I'm usually every Wednesday. I'm usually on the panel for UFO Man on UFO Man podcast. It's another YouTube channel where we have some amazing guests coming on there. So check me out there. And oh yeah, the reality show. We were just on Homestead Rescue on Discovery Channel. Our episode aired on November 19th of last year. You can find it on discoverygo.com, and our episode is season 11 episode 1, and that's Homestead Rescue on Discovery Channel. And you can watch our episode for totally free, and it's pretty amazing. They come out and did a whole they were out here for like 12 days. They showed up the day before my birthday. So that's another thing I was telling you earlier about the eagle coming at right before my birthday. It seems like the universe always has really given me something very crazy happening like on my birthday. And actually, I think you asked me to, or you made contact with me for the first time on my birthday, I think. Anyways,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's just something crazy always happens. So they showed up last year on April 10th and April 11th is my birthday. So they showed up and started filming and everything and started filming on my birthday. So it was pretty crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Um, yeah. Other than that, man, just I hope something I said has triggered someone listening to have their own experience or seek out their own healing, whether it be in a ceremony with me or someone else. Psychedelics are not for everybody. That's why there's so many different ways to connect to your inner self, your inner source energy, God, Buddha, whatever you want to call it. Like there's so many different ways to connect to that inner oneness. Psychedelics is just one of the ways, and but it's not for everybody. If it is for you and you feel like I'm the right person to do ceremony with, please reach out. Let's set something up. If not, I hope you find the right person that you can really feel comfortable with and really open up with and help with whatever you're going through. And that goes for you too, man.
Thanks, man. I do appreciate that. Yeah. I definitely want to have you back on because we didn't even talk about the CE5s and stuff. I tell you, man, you got so much to talk about. Dude. You got a lot to talk about. You know, you're a great guy. You're a great guest, man. It was nice having you on. Um, yeah, if I can ever help you out promote anything, just hit me up, tag me in it, whatever. Send me a link. I'll promote it for you too. So always feel free to
Appreciate
do
it.
that. Miss Sandra says, interesting show. Thank you, Drew, for coming on and sharing. Sandra, I hope you're doing so much better. You better get better, girl. But yeah, hold on real quick. And everybody else, thanks a lot for joining the show. And my mom has to say thank you, Drew.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, hold on real quick. Everybody, thanks a lot. I'll see you guys Friday night. I have an extra show on this week, so I'll be available Friday at 8 p.m. Everybody have a good night.